Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hi.
Dave, we are here. You, by the time everyone is hearing this, you will not be here. You will be in another country.
I will. I will be overseas.
You will be posting pictures of Smythe's toys?
Smiths, I think.
Yeah. I always want to say, I always want to pronounce it like with the I sound, like it's Smythe from the Spider-Man animated series.
I'm hoping to find one. I don't know. Like, I looked the list of locations. And I'm like, I know those are cities, but I don't know like where they're near or where I'm near. So,
well, yeah,
I know of a couple places I'll be. So hopefully there's one nearby.
I'm hoping you can find one because that'll be fun.
Yeah, amongst other like things like fun vintage shops or something.
Like sticky toffee pudding and chip buddies, and
yes,
beans on toast.
I meant like, well, there will be food, but I meant like
food.
Vintage shops and like a toy shop.
Yeah. Are you actually? We're totally going off the rails real quick here, but did you see that Frank Turner is doing that? Like, are you going to be in the area when he's doing that?
No, I'll be home by then.
Okay, all right. Just for anyone that cares, music related. If you are a fan of Frank Turner, you probably heard about this already. But the man who is like a touring machine is going to try to break the world record by performing in the most cities within a 24-hour period, and he's got like 14 something cities lined up.
Yeah.
Like and locations lined up, so that's gonna be fun to follow because I'm sure his social media will be absolutely alight that day.
Yeah, I'll be at a Manchester United game at some point.
There we go. Get a new scarf.
Yeah, because I don't know where mine is. So,
but yeah, Dave, is there anything else that I shouldn't do right about now?
Bury the lead.
Yeah,
I don't think you should do it.
No. It's been a wild time lately for indie toy makers and Kickstarter campaigns. We last week, if you haven't listened, definitely check that out. But we had Jason Bienvenu, returning guest from Spiro Toys, on talking about Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. And as of the recording of this episode, they absolutely crushed it. Fully funded, plus a ton of unlocks. They unlocked birds. So congrats to Jason. Prior to that, friends at Nacelle Toys had, of course, their Expanse Kickstarter, which also was successful. And today's guest is going to be another successful Kickstarter campaign. We know it. We're calling it now. This week's guest joins us from the far off reaches, a place familiar to us but outright alien to most, New Jersey. Here to talk about his new Kickstarter campaign, Galactic Valor, we welcome James from Foxforge Toys. James, welcome to Adventures in Collecting.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for calling in from the far reaches of northern New Jersey.
Yeah,
welcome aboard from nearby.
Yeah, I think it's great that we're legit, like, not even like a 15-minute car ride from one another.
Yeah, we could have literally, most of these we can't do in person, but we could have done this one in person if we really tried. But
Yeah, for sure.
for audio purposes, the isolation is actually better. It enhances the mix, if you will. So before we hop into our main discussion here about Galactic Valor, the first question that we ask all of our guests, since this is a show about collecting, what are you currently collecting, and what are some of your recent pickups?
Yeah. So I've been collecting. I'm a big, huge Warhammer 40K fan. So I'm super happy that we've gone from like 3D miniatures to now like full blown posable action figures of like Space Marines and stuff. So I just recently picked up a McFarlane Toys Terminator, Ultramarines Terminator. So I'm happy with that. It looks menacing on the shelf right now. And then I picked up a Hot Toys Commander Fox figure as well. So that was I've added that to my D12 shelf as well.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, those Warhammer figures. I like that he's kind of McFarlane has kind of continued the tradition of putting out like the blank, like paintless ones so that people
Yeah.
can, the same way that they, paint the miniatures can now paint the big guys and have them
Yep.
move around. So yeah, it's a fun little tradition that he's kind of continued there.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into the Kickstarter, tell us a bit about Fox Forge Toys and how did you get started with toy design?
Yeah, sure. So it all started when I was working for Toys R Us Corporate. I was a part of their product development branch, so I was focused on their private label products. I got to learn about like the product development life cycle process and how to turn an idea and a concept and a drawing basically into a physical product that you would see on store shelves. So as I was learning and talking to factories and understanding the process and all these other crucial like details when creating things, I was like, wow, I would love to apply this to like my own ideas and concepts that I have for like a toy, for like an action figure line. So in 2018, I launched Fox Forge Toys. It started off with just working with sculptors, 3D printing them, and then selling them as these Stardust figures. That was our first line we did as just 3D prints. And then we did a Kickstarter campaign for that. And then we got funded. And then I was able to, work with factories and get our sketches and ideas into people's hands, which I thought was amazing. So I can't wait to do that with Galactic Valor.
So I didn't realize that your background actually came from Toys R Us. Well, unfortunately, you were likely, based on the timeline you were saying, you were likely there, during those kind of dying days of the company. But what was it like to be part of such a formerly renowned company, something that like we all hold so dearly?
Yeah, I mean, it was like right out of college. It was basically like the dream job. Like what you're this massive corporate office that could hold like I think anywhere from like 3,000 to 4,000 employees at a given time. There's massive office, and it was just crazy. There was just toys all in the hallway. It was basically like what you would imagine Santa's workshop to be, with like all of these cubicles filled with Jeffrey the Giraffes, like all these like prototypes and paint samples and factory samples from overseas. Countless meetings going on, massive statues of like minions from Despicable Me and Batman and Superman in the grand auditorium where the CEO would give his updates to people. It was crazy working there. If Toys R Us didn't take the projection that it was doing, I'd still be working there. That would have been a forever job for me. But unfortunately, it went out of business the first go around. So I lost my job. But I think the reason, if I was still there, I don't think what I'm working on would have happened, because you have like all these things where you're not allowed to do certain things when you're employed for the company and stuff like that. So it was definitely a good, it was a massive learning experience, and I was able to basically take all of these learnings and apply it to what I'm doing now. So I'm very grateful for it, and for all the, coworkers and bosses that I worked for, because they've definitely had really good input for what I'm, trying to produce now.
Yeah, it's still weird driving, because we grew up in northern.
It's weird
New Jersey,
driving
yeah.
past what's now an Aldi.
Well, not even that. It's where I am. In order to get to some places easier, like every time I go to Zap Comics, I pass by the old headquarters, and the sign, instead of saying what one Joffrey Way or Jeffrey Way, I think they have just like a crude plaque over it right now just to block it. But just I always remember just driving past that corporate headquarters sign, and it was almost like Willy Wonka in the toy factory, wonder what goes on behind those walls, sort of thing.
It was amazing, especially during the holiday times. You'd have it to be where you could bring the workers could bring their families in, and you'd have it to be where kids were driving down in the big, huge remote controlled RC cars down the hallway, and all that stuff. It was a remarkable workspace, that's for sure.
Oh, really cool. Glad you were able to take,
That's cool.
Take the lemons and make lemonade, as it were. So let's talk a little bit about Galactic Valor. What's the story behind the line?
Yeah, so in terms of the lore and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the lore, it's a sci-fi themed line. I love sci-fi, so I wanted to continue with that. So basically, it's set in the far future, and it's set in a system called the Corthic system, and there's all these different planets in this system, and each one is inhabited by different alien races. And as time progresses, the alien races get more scientifically advanced. They start exploring. They start coming across one another. Then tension builds up. So as the tension starts to build, there's wars and there's further escalation. But while they're focused on all of this, trying to survive and overcome one another, there's this bigger outside threat that's looming, and they need to decide, all right, do we want to continue fighting one another and probably all get wiped out, or do we want to all band together and take on this one big massive threat that is now starting to impose on their system? So that's the overarching idea and story behind Galactic Valor, and who these characters are in the initial offering of the wave.
Nice. So, Galactic Valor is the second 112 scale toy line that you've made. And you talked a little bit about this before from the Toys R Us experience and the initial Kickstarter and such. But what did you learn from Stardust that helped you develop Galactic Valor?
Yeah, so Stardust was basically get the ideas out there. I can now say that I've brought an action figure line to the market, so I know I can do it, and I can do it efficiently because the quality of the product was really good. But as I'm going to conventions and I'm listening to people, and you see these long lines at these exhibitor booths for Four Horsemen, Spiro Toys, Action Force, Valorverse, and all that, and it's let me start talking to these other collectors, and what are they like, and what are they looking in for in action figures. So it was a lot of taking on a lot of feedback. Stardust did incredibly well. We were super happy with it, but I wanted to push it to the next level, and it was basically what I found out was higher detailed sculpts, more articulation, soft goods, pinless joints, removable armor. And that's all stuff that I kind of learned, and I was like, oh, let me incorporate that into this new line. So Galactic Valor is basically all that stuff molded into one, and presented as it is in the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, I mean those Stardust figures, even to this day, I was what kind of took me back when you first put one of them in my hand, actually, was how good they felt for like a you know indie action figure company. Like, just the way that they moved, the way that the joints felt, the way that everything held. Um, you know, it was remarkable. Usually, you don't get that. Like, something feels
Hmm.
kind of off, right? Like the plastic choices, maybe. Like, they felt very complete.
Yeah.
So going from that to then the prototypes that we had, which again, thank you for letting us play, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
prototypes, it's a night and day. Like, as good as those Stardust figures felt and how good they moved, it's just like going from that to those prototypes was like, whoa, this is, forget night and day. This is like a different galaxy, pun intended.
Yeah.
Um, it really is remarkable how different they are. And again, that's no knock to the Stardust figures.
Yeah.
Those were fantastic.
Hmm.
I mentioned the matte gray, kind of unpainted. You guys put a couple of those out as well, which we have. We have something cooking with one of the ones that you gave us. We have a friend who's an artist that is going to
Ooh.
do a one of one paint on that, and we're gonna run it as a giveaway. So
Oh, that would be awesome. Can't wait to see that.
stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how you've taken the feedback and applied it to these new figures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the evolution is outstanding.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, as you said, a lot of listening, feedback. Yeah, Stardust was, and is like a retro themed line, and I kind of wanted to do something more realistic and what the market is afterwards with the current trends in it. So, um, I feel like with what's being offered right now, I think I'm pretty happy with it. Are there a couple few, as the Kickstarter is progressing? Are there a couple few little changes I would like to do? Absolutely. So we'll see where we get with the Kickstarter campaign.
Well, you mentioned changes, and you actually just recently announced one, right? The boots, the
Yeah. So
optional
like
boots with the figures.
one of the big call outs was is like, and we weren't aware of it going into the Kickstarter, because we attended it and we showed it off at Legions Con. We got great feedback from there, so we applied that over the course of a couple months. But then it's like, like molds or to make figures are just so expensive, and mold reuse is definitely a big thing when it comes to making action figures. Like, that was a big thing that we had to do in Toys R Us, and you hear it from like every other indie toy maker or big company as well. But it was just like, all right, let's make these alien figures. Let's try and make them as different as possible. But one of the callouts we got was, oh, the feet are the same across the board, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally get that. I totally understand. And it was one of them, I guess, points that was consistently brought up. So I was like, oh, let's bring in. We'll do a free complimentary upgrade to where we'll include an extra pair of boots that come with the figures, so you can have that added extra customization option with the figures. And that seems to have been taken on really well. So we're excited to see that.
Yeah, and you mentioned this earlier, but both of these of the lines that you've worked on so far, the Stardust and now Galactic Valor, have both been firmly rooted in that science fiction genre. Um, what draws you to that genre? What made you want to make figures in this space?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think well, one is just like, I'm a big, huge, sci-fi nerd. I, grew up loving, Warhammer 40K, Star Wars, Star Trek, Halo, Mass Effect. So it was like, I kind of want to do something retro as well as realistic. Um, So like that's the reason why I decided to stick with the theme. But if as time develops and the company continues rolling forward, I would love to do like historical like type figures as well, like Romans and Greeks and stuff like that. Like that would be super fun as well. But that was the reason. But sci-fi is kind of like it. That's where it hits home for me personally.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, and I said this too about the Stardust figures going back, that like kind of space marine sci-fi market is big, and there isn't really a whole lot there in the world of toys, representing that. You have basically what Jazzwares is out there doing with Halo.
Halo, yeah.
And for the most part, they focus primarily on the littler figures anyway. That they do have 6-inch or 7-inch ish scale figures, but mostly their bread and butter is that 4-inch scale for those figures for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, because NECA really didn't get involved in like when they were doing the Kenner retros of doing like everybody from Aliens.
Yeah, no, they only did a few. And then really, Four Horsemen has one or two. It's always hard to keep track of with them, but they have the Cosmic Legions now. But I think there is like a gap there, especially with how much people love, like you said, like those IPs, like the Halos and the Mass Effects of the world. In terms of that like corner of sci-fi, it's a really interesting zone to operate in.
Yep.
And two, the name you picked, like you mentioned, like wanting to do other historical figures. When this works out, you can keep the Valor on the end of it and just change the beginning.
Yeah.
Roman Valor.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
Like Viking Valor. You could
Yeah.
you just pick a different time period, different space, Valor on the end of it, and then that's your brand right there, man.
Yeah.
That is a very good idea.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom-and-pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at their brand new home at 101 Newark Pompton Turnpike, Suite 1 in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at chubsywubsy.com. That's CHUBZYWUBZZY.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you. Are you thirsty? Well, guess what? That's your brain telling you you're getting dehydrated. Put down that action figure and up your hydration game with show sponsor, Liquid IV. Liquid IV hydrates 2 times faster than water alone with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, and it's easy to use. Rip open a pouch and pour one of their delicious flavors into a water bottle and shake it up. I'm a huge fan of the cucumber mojito and golden cherry flavors, but with more than a dozen to choose from, there's a flavor for everyone. So whether you're on a long toy hunt, spending 10 hours on your feet walking your favorite Comic-Con, trying to get to sleep, or recuperating after a gym session, stay hydrated and healthy with Liquid IV. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code AICPOD at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code AICPOD at liquidiv.com.
And now, back to the show.
So, what makes Galactic Valor stand out from other sci-fi inspired lines on the market, like especially some of the ones we just talked about, whether it's kind of that mainstream or even the indie toys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different like IPs out there in the action figure world. I was kind of I did a lot of research, and I was kind of looking at a bunch of different lines out there of like what is like the best articulation and stuff like that. So I feel like with what it's currently providing, I'm happy with like the removable armor, the pinless articulation, ankle rocker joints, the torso hinge and stuff like that. I feel like it's all areas, and the butterfly joints and the shoulders. Like I feel like those are all areas that make a really good figure. So I would like to utilize that for Galactic Valor. I feel like when it comes to like the removing armor and popping, swapping like the heads, the hands, and the feet out and the armor out, it allows for like a great wealth of customization options to where you, the collector, could have like your own unique like figurine of that line. Especially with that, when you see customizers and all that like go at it, and they make like basically the figure that they've taken from you and then make it 10 times better with just a couple easy quick fixes. So like that's kind of like the part that I'm most excited about. But yeah, I think that's like what I feel like kind of helps differentiate is with Galactic Valor, and it's just like the passion behind it. I love making this. I'm a collector, so I try to hit all the nails on the head that everyone would want. And yeah, so that's kind of how I feel, and how I feel Galactic Valor can be good for the toy market.
Do you think it's it's challenging to kind of strike out with like your own IP here? Like most of the toy lines that are out there, especially now, like
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia has been kind of such a big seller, in the past 10, 15 years, driving everything. Is it exciting for you? Is it nerve-wracking? Is it challenging to like think about your own IP going out there and kind of competing against all of these other like really well-known, name recognizable brands?
Yeah, I mean, like I think the first part is starting with the idea. You start writing everything down. That's a lot of fun, and then getting the drawings made, getting the 3D sculpts made, and writing down the story. That's all fun, and I really enjoyed working with friends and family and getting their input on like the line and stuff like that, and then listening to feedback at Legions Con and ToyCon New Jersey. It's all and it was it's been such a blast making this line for me personally. But yes, as it comes to like, hey everybody, here's my idea, what do you think about it? And it's basically trying to get people to resonate with it and all that stuff. I think it's the coolest thing ever when people start, like making, comments about it and, finding interest in it and saying the character names that you've come up with and all that stuff. I think that's like so cool. But yeah, once it gets to like the big part where it's like, all right, I don't have, $80,000 to, get this going myself. I need to go to Kickstarter, and I need to have the community help me get this up and running. Yeah, like that's definitely nerve wracking and all that stuff. But, I'm confident. I've had a lot of fun making it. I'm willing to listen to feedback. So, and I feel like I've applied some of that to the line as it's been progressing. So yeah, that's how I feel about it at the moment. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the benefits too between like an quote unquote indie toy versus a quote unquote mainstream toy
Mm-hmm.
is like if you look at Star Wars or you look at Star Trek or you look at Halo, the story is the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a distinct Star Wars movie that these characters are from, or there is a distinct Halo game that these characters are from, or Warhammer, or whatever the case may be. And yeah, you're playing along or you're watching along and you're seeing it unfold. But for a new IP, like the story is happening as there's a new wave, right? Like the story is ever evolving. Whereas here's this hour and a half, 2-hour thing.
And you're also the master of that story.
Yeah, you're creating the story. You're figuring it out as you go, and I think that's a huge advantage based off of, or that's like a huge kind of selling point, is you're seeing everything evolve as it goes.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Like the characters that are in the initial offering of the Kickstarter, they're just some of the characters that are in the story. There's countless other characters that have yet to be revealed. Like there's a lot of concept art that I haven't shared and stuff like that. So it's gonna be, it's been a lot of fun, making this and developing the story, and it can basically lead down a bunch of different avenues. But I'm definitely excited with what the future holds for the line, definitely with the ideas that are there.
So you mentioned kind of taking feedback and pivoting and applying that to, some of the decisions that you made about this line and, and the Kickstarter campaign itself. But what really, kind of inspired the overall like aesthetic and design of these characters? Because again, like, going from Stardust to this, it's such a contrast and so different, but these characters also kind of fall into that, I used a much more clever term for this the last time we talked about it, but it's like new but also familiar at the same time. And
Hmm.
it's one of the that I think that makes it kind of easy for people to connect to. Like I know I made not a it was not a joke or a dig at all, but when I first saw your main villain, um, in hand, the first thing I thought of like was Galaxy Quest. I was like,
Hmm.
this looks like the main villain a little bit, like reminds me of the main, especially with the once you put the cape on him and like he's brooding and he's menacing and like you could picture him standing on like the deck of a big ship looking out
Yeah.
like a giant window as he's like ready to like siege a planet. um but like I love that. I think that's awesome that there's that like just tinge of familiarity to it. But where did these designs kind of come from?
Yeah. So like, I mean, these are all like ideas that have come from like obviously, growing up with all these different sci-fi, stories and stuff like that. But I've always been a fan of like, with the aliens, there's like, like there's Jurassic Park. That was a big thing I absolutely love. So like there's a lot of like reptilian vibes in there. Um, I also think it's amazing like how you brought up Galaxy Quest. Loved that film as a kid. So I didn't realize that until I looked him up and I was like, huh, oh yeah, it does look like him. Um, so that's all. I love when people bring up like, oh, like this looks like something out of this looks like a Halo alien or something like that, and I'm like, it makes me happy because that is obviously it resonate. It helps it makes the line help resonate with them. So like that's kind of like where the ideas have come from. Is just all this past and current love for all these different things in the sci-fi space that I absolutely love.
Yeah, so as you close in on the funding goal, and as of airtime, we're in that final sprint. So let's keep everything moving, everybody. But what are the future plans for the line past the campaign?
Yeah. So like um, with the campaign, yeah, we're closing in on the funding goal. Like, I mean, I'm blown away as it is with what we've achieved already. It's kind of been like a really surreal experience with like the exposure and like how many people are talking about it. So the plans are when in the Kickstarter campaign, I have it to where there's like some pretty good stretch goals in there. So with like the Nexus, it's like a brand new, like 100% new molds from top to bottom, which will allow for to where we want it to do, where you can pop and swap the heads off the aliens because aliens become more involved with Nexus. And then we also have on there the Warmock, which is basically this massive like brute of a beast that stands like roughly 9 inches tall. So like in that campaign there, we kind of wanted to highlight like this is the ideas that we have, and like these are the different types of avenues that we want to take, and how serious we are with wanting to expand the line. We want to do like like little, personal sized vehicles for the 1/12 scale. We want to do more aliens. We want to bring in more factions. Like a great example is like the current Spiro Toys Kickstarter that just ended, where they just did countless amounts of different molds. And now where they've achieved that, they can go down so many different avenues with so many different types of different animals. So that is kind of like where I want to take it. I want to unlock all these different molds so we can do so many different characters. Time will, that'll take time, but I feel like we're definitely off, like in a good direction.
So, again, as of airtime, there's roughly 48 hours left to go on the campaign. If there's anyone that's on the fence in these kind of final days, in that final sprint, what would you tell them to kind of gently nudge them on the onto the other side of the fence to back this campaign?
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's a line that definitely tugs on the heartstrings for all sci-fi lovers. I feel that it complements a lot of lines to where it can be compatible with a bunch of different action figures. Like I've heard from people at conventions, like, oh, these would go great with Cosmic Legions. These would go great with Star Wars figures in like a cantina scene. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, that it could be a multi-use. It could be used across a bunch of different action figure lines. Another thing is like we're also offering exclusive pricing on the Kickstarter. This is it's the cheapest place where you can get these figures. And then like another thing is like it's just a lot of passion and like this love and has been put into this line. It's coming from a collector that likes to that has like a bunch of action figures, that enjoys the hobby. So that's what I would say. And then we're just, we're super transparent. We're always listening to feedback. We like providing updates to everybody so we can share the journey with you. I think seeing the factory make the stuff is like really awesome. So I'll be sharing all of that as time goes on. So that would be what I would say if you're on the fence in the last 48 hours. I think it would be a very fun journey if you were to join us on it.
And I can confirm, having had the chance to kind of play with the prototypes, they do fit in with quite a lot. I enjoyed shooting them with G.I. Joe Classified. Like they looked really great with like the bats and like and the Mindbender and stuff like that. They fit right in. But also, definitely Marvel Legends. So, any of your cosmic themed Marvel Legends can bump into some aliens out there. But yeah, they are, firsthand, they're amazing. They were a lot of fun to play with, like half glued together. So I can't imagine how much fun they actually are when I don't have to put sticky tack on them to make their hands stay. That was the first time I have ever had the opportunity to like shoot with prototypes like that, which was two things. We didn't actually get to like fully like debrief on this, but like terrifying because I was like, oh my god, don't break, oh my god, don't break, oh my god, and then like something would fall off and be like, oh my god, I broke it, it's done forever. James is never gonna speak to me again. And then I'm like shaking and looking at that sheet like, oh, was that supposed to move? I don't think that part was supposed to move. But no, like even like glued together prototypes, they still like you could see the detail, the care. When I tried to get it to come across in photos, and it's really one of those things that I think you kind of have to see them in person to pick up. But like the textures and like the details that you have on the bodies, like on those reptilian bodies, it's fantastic. Shouts to your painter too, who painted those things. Oh my god, they were gorgeous.
Yeah, I'll quickly do a shout out to everybody involved because they deserve it. So the sculptor that helped take my drawings and turning them into a sculpt is Rafael Fernandez. He's been amazing to work with. And then the painter that we worked with was Nikki Nicole Customs, who's done, she does great work for, she did Savage Crucible. I think she's done a couple Mythic Legions figures custom wise. But yeah, she's been a pleasure to work with. And then C. Jessam and his wife for Tigron Soft Cape. And then with the photographs, we were able to work with Trevor 1/6 Shooter, and then Jared, aka Sir Dork.
Yeah, awesome, absolutely stellar, awesome group of people. They say it takes an army. And it takes a village, takes an army, takes a village. One of those things. It takes one of those things. Group of people. But yeah, no, it's really exciting watching this come together, and wish you nothing but the best, man. I mean,
and it's that common thing where everybody's like, the thing everybody says is, oh, it's like such a great time to be, a wrestling toy collector, because there's so many companies doing that, whether it's mainstream or indie. But like sci-fi, I think, is kind of like that low key, quiet, like, oh no, it's really also a good time to be, quite a time to be a sci-fi toy collector too, because you do have the Star Wars and the Halos and all those going around. But like, if you think about it, like Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Galactic Valor, Cosmic Legions, like there's a lot going on in that indie space too. So it's, I would say, just as good of a time to be a sci-fi collector as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially with projects like this, like collectors have a chance to be involved directly. So this is your chance to get involved in making something else successful.
So if you like sci-fi toys,
this is your time.
Boy, do we have a good one for you. So before we let you go, and we give one more round of just kind of plugs, we do have a tradition here on Adventures in Collecting. So Dave, would you like to fulfill your role as this podcast's James Lipton and ask our final question?
Why, yes, I would. The final question that we ask all of our guests: what is your favorite and/or strangest piece in your collection? It can be one of each, or it can be both.
So, yes, I was having a look through what I have, and I was like, those are pretty strange, but also up there as one of my favorites. It's a, there's action figures and there's designer toys. So there's this designer toy artist that I absolutely love called Flaw Toys, and he does these translucent, it's like a translucent plastic, and then inside of it is like a skeleton, and it's called a stranger. So it's like, it's kind of, you have to look it up, but the company or the artist that has it is called Flaw Toys, and he has all these different types of like translucent figurines that he does, and they're really awesome.
Oh my God, these are beautiful.
Yeah, I have an orange one. I have a cyan one.
Cool.
That glows in the dark, and then I have a silver and gold one.
Oh man, I like that he does No Face too. The translucent No Face figures from Spirited Away. That's awesome.
Yep.
Very very cool. And
that's really cool.
Shouts to Flaw Toys. That's awesome. Very very cool. That definitely that's a first for the show. We have not heard of Flaw Toys or seen this before. And are they glass or are they resin?
It's like super polished resin.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like this one with the roses in it. That's cool.
Oh yeah, look at that. This guy's clever.
This is pretty cool.
Hey, if you're listening, Flaw Toys, reach out to us. Let's have a conversation on the show. All right, James, that's fantastic. Thank you for cluing us into that. That's great. So before we say good evening, one more time, remind our followers, our listeners, where can they follow Fox Forge toys on the internet? And most importantly, where can they back Galactic Valor?
Yeah, so if you want to stay up to date with everything Galactic Valor and Fox Forge related, we have our Instagram and our Facebook, which is Fox Forge Toys. And then we also update our website occasionally, but we'll be doing it more as time progresses as we're into the final stages of the Kickstarter, but foxforgetoys.com. And then if you want to find the Kickstarter, if you type in action figures or Galactic Valor on Kickstarter.com, you can find the campaign there.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put links to both of those, both the Instagram account and the Kickstarter in the show notes, just in case you have the chance to go and tap away. That way you don't have to go searching and finding things. You can just go right to the show notes and tap to follow, and most importantly, to back Galactic Valor. James, with that, I think that's a wrap. Again, like, good luck. You're almost there. It's the home stretch, so hopefully by the time this airs, you've already crossed the finish line, and we're talking about, we're looking at stretch goals. But you're so close. I got a good feeling.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Let's see what happens. I'm excited.
All right, Dave, send us home.
Let's get some more toys made, everybody.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.